Hi, welcome to Chad Silversmithing. Thanks for coming to my channel. I appreciate it. If you like what you find here, would you mind hitting the like button before you leave? That helps out my channel a great deal, and I really appreciate it. Thank you so much in advance for that. So one of the things that I haven't covered yet really in any of my videos is various types of hoop earrings, and since they're so popular at times, it seemed like a good idea to have a video or two about some various different styles of hoops. And so I'm going to do 3 different kinds today, and I think I'm going to make this a repeating series, so this is going to be part 1 for the simple hoop kind of designs. So we'll do 3 different ones, and then I'll finish them up at the end and show you what they look like. So before we get started, I wanted to thank some people. Thank you to my YouTube subscribers first. We passed 5,200 recently, which is kind of blows me away a little bit. Thank you for that. I look forward to the continued growth and meeting all the nice people I've met through this. So thanks also to my patrons over on Patreon. I have a new one over there, Kelly S. Thank you for signing up. I appreciate your support. I look forward to meeting you and chatting with you about jewelry over there. So if you have any interest in any of those things like Patreon, check the video description. There's also some other relevant links to see. So let's get started on this video. So let's see what I have drawn up here today. This is my little sketchbook that I use for various designs. You can find these on my merch store. Let's see. Okay, so I was thinking I wasn't going to do anything too complex today. I just wanted some different hoops that are nice looking, that also have some different kinds of connections or findings at the end here. So I've never done one quite like this, but it's going to be just a strip of, I think, 22 gauge. I'm going to make it about 5 millimeters wide. And then I'm going to solder a piece of 20 gauge wire to the top and then curve it so it goes through a little drill hole in this strip here. I think this would be a good basis for a lot of different earrings, maybe ones that have patterns on them, or you could reticulate the metal. But I think it has a lot of potential. You could do stamped stuff on them, or you could just make them really shiny, or you could do two-tone, like put some copper or brass on there. That would be kind of fun as well. So that'll be type 1. Type 2 is going to be tube earrings, where you actually, I'll show you how to bend a little skinny tube without kinking it. And we're going to put some 20 gauge wire soldered to the inside of the front here that allows you to stick the end of it into the other side of the tube here after you put it on your ear. And so that'll keep it secure and makes for a nice clean hoop earring that doesn't catch. The other thing about these ones is they shouldn't really be catchy on clothing or poke you in the neck or anything like that. I'm hoping anyway. The other thing about these ones is you can wear them plain like that, and they're real simple and nice. But you can also add some decorations to them. So I'm going to make a couple of, I actually made a couple of bezels for some citrines for this one, and I'm going to make some replacements. So you can make a whole bunch of different stones, say citrines and garnets and emeralds or whatever, and put them all on these different little jump rings like that, and just slide them on whenever you want to change the look a little bit. So kind of versatile earrings. Third one is going to be a triple one. I'm going to have them in kind of a hoop. I call these kind of like pirate hoops. They remind me of pirate earrings. So I'm going to do square wire here, and then twisted square wire in the middle. And since I want this to stick out a little bit bigger than the other ones, when I bend it, or when I solder these together to the end here, I'm going to have this one bowed upwards or downwards so that it's a little bit longer than these, so that when I do the final thing, it actually sticks out further than these ones in the middle. Like this sticks down a little bit lower. I measured, it's about 65 millimeters-ish, so we'll kind of go around that range. I drew this here because the way that the ear wire on this one's going to attach, it's going to be soldered onto this side, but it'll just rest in a notch underneath those 3 like that, hopefully. So you'll put it through your ear and then just kind of slide it sideways underneath that, and it should stay pretty securely. hopefully. Those are the 3 types that I'm going to make, and we'll start with this one. So let's get some 22 gauge sheet here. And let's see about how long that's got to be. So I can figure this out using math. Ooh, how exciting. Everybody loves math, right? We take the diameter, if I want it to be about this size, we got like 10, 20, 30, 33-ish as far as the diameter of the circle. So if you do pi times diameter, 33 times 3.14, so if I was to do a full circle around here, because this is pi times diameter equals circumference, it'd be 103.62 millimeters. However, I only need half of it, so I can do it about, we'll call it 52 millimeters for each strip. Okay, and they need to be about 5 millimeters wide. This is a pretty new sheet, so we can use some factory edges. What did I say? 52 millimeters about. Let's cut that one out, and I'll use that as kind of a guide. If you've never seen my videos before, I use hard silver sheet solder primarily. I don't generally use much else. There's a few occasions where I use easy solder, but not very often. And I use a spray-on flux called My-T-Flux. And I'm a big proponent of pick soldering. That's something that took me to a whole different level as far as silversmithing. So I'll put a link up there to my pick soldering video if you want to see how that's done. That should get us pretty close to that, I think. Okay, let's cut off another one. This is presupposing that I cut that relatively straight, which I... who knows? We'll see. Almost invariably somebody's going to ask me about these shears, because almost everybody cuts stuff with a saw. And these are just Fisker's craft shears. They work well for cutting relatively thin silver sheet, up to about 18 you can get by with. It took me about 200 videos to break a pair of these, and I finally did the other day. But I was cutting very thick sheet a lot, and so I'm actually surprised at how durable they are. So, Fisker's, I'm not a sponsor, but I would be. Okay, so now let's neaten these edges up a little bit. You could roll these through the rolling mill and put a little texture on them if you wanted to. That would be kind of fun. You could probably use 18 gauge as well, or 20 gauge for these if you wanted to. Have a little bit of thicker earring, but one of the biggest gripes I get from people who are buying earrings is that they don't like heavy earrings. So I get that. That would be kind of annoying. Pretty close. Okay. First thing I need to do is drill a hole in the end of each one of these for the ear wire to go through. So I need to kind of figure out where that's going to go. I don't want it too far from the end. say about 1 millimeter away from the end. And I'm just going to use a center punch and put a dimple there on each of those. And after I do that, I'm going to drill a hole with my portable drill. So I got a little hole in each of these. I almost got them centered. This one's a little bit off, but not too bad. So I typically, with things like this that have sharp corners, I file them at kind of a 45-degree angle, so they're not going to be catchy and pokey. We're going to use 20 gauge wire, which is pretty standard for ear wires. And I think I might flatten out the ends just a little bit on these so I can get a good solid connection on this. And I'm going to connect it a little bit longer than you might expect, just to make sure it's got a multiple area hold on it. I'm going to flatten it out just a little bit. I think I need a piece at least as long as this, probably a little longer since we need to make a little loop at the end. So I'm going to cut myself some extra. I'll use that as a guide to cut the second one. And then we can always trim it down if we need to. Chances are I didn't guess perfectly. See, normally I use half hard 20 gauge wire for ear wires on dangle earrings. Because I don't solder them, I actually just tie them into a kind of a twist around the top. So they maintain their work hardening, which is suitable for ear wires because you want them to not be too flimsy. And so when we do this, we're going to take all of that work hardening out of it that it's got built into it by annealing it accidentally. So we're going to have to twist them at the end to make them do what we want to do. So I think I'm just going to put it on about like that. I have some solder here already, so I'm just going to pick a little solder on there. The tricky part about these ones is you've got to get the wires hot too, as well as the sheet. There's more mass in the sheet, and so it's going to be a little trickier to get those hot at the same temperature at the same time as the pieces of sheet without melting the wires. That's what a lot of people struggle with at the beginning, is timing of heating stuff. I'm just trying to make sure that kind of stays where I want it to stay. Mostly. Okay. So, in theory, my best bet is to focus on mostly over here, and then at the end start hitting the wire as well. Get this nice and warm, because it takes a little longer to get that up to temperature. Then we'll start going up and down. It's tempting, if you're new at this, to just focus right here, but that's a bad idea, because usually it'll overheat that spot and never quite get the solder to flow right until you get everything to the temperature it needs to be. And it seems silly that you have to heat way over here, but you do. You gonna tip over on me there, buddy? That one started to turn on me a little bit, so. So in that time, I jumped the gun a little bit, and it jumped onto the wire, because the wire was hot enough there, but this was not quite hot enough. So I had to get in order to get it to stick to this well, you needed to make sure that this one reaches temperature too. You know, it's no good to you if it only sticks to the one side. I'm likely not going to bend these until the end because it'll be easier to polish them when they're straight like this, and then I'll come back and I'll finish them at the end. So let's let those pickle for a while. start working on the second side. Okay, so number 2 is going to be just some hollow tubes. I grabbed some tube. This is the sort of tube that fits right perfectly with 18 gauge wire. There's a piece of 18 gauge. It's 1.6 millimeter outside diameter. So if you get it from Rio, at least the item number used to be 100902. I got this one quite a while ago, so they may have changed their numbers. But it is the size that 18 gauge fits nicely in. Okay. And while I'm going to use 20 gauge for the ear wire, this is a good size for these things. And so there will be a little excess room when we solder in that piece of 20 gauge that goes in there for the ear wire. In order to bend thin tube like this, the easiest way I've found is just, well, let's see how much we need here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to cut a piece of 18 gauge wire the same length as this, or a little bit longer maybe, so it sticks out and I can grab it. And then I'm going to feed that into the tube. If you have something that fills up the tube completely, it's not going to be able to collapse on itself when you go to bend it around something. So I should be able to just bend it around something the size that I want. So I think I'm going to use a dapping punch that's about that size, if I can locate it. I think if I use one of these, it'll be a little bit too big. So let's use this one. And I'm just going to wrap this around there. Just kind of manually making the ends a little bit curvier. I'll be cutting those off anyway, so. Well, those came out to be about the right size. I'm going to cut it off right about here with the jeweler saw. Apologies for the messy sawing area. Put a little lubrication on there. Let's see if we can't just kind of saw it off right here. And there's one of them. These are pretty similar. Okay, now let me decide how big of a piece I want to take out of there. The space that we're going to leave here is the part where your earlobe's going to go, so we want to have it wide enough to get your ear in there comfortably without having to really jam it in there, but we'll cut it off right about where that purple mark is on both of these. Pretty close. Not too bad. Now we need to push that piece of wire out of there. So I'm going to give this a little push from one side. See if I can get it to start coming out. See how it popped out. Okay. So we got them in the shape that we want. And we want to have a piece of 20 gauge wire that sticks out here, but it's just long enough to where I can pop it into that tube on the other side after I put it on my ear. And so let's get ourselves a little bit of 20 gauge. Where did I put the rest of that? But I'm going to cut them way longer than I need just so I have some room. Again, just like on the other piece, once these have pickled up nice, if I want them to be stiff and kind of rigid, I'm going to have to twist them to make them work hardened again, because they're going to get kind of soft doing this. So, all right. I would push it in a little ways, you know, maybe a 1/4 of an inch at least. You want to make sure you have a good connection there. And then I'm just going to pick it right on the ends of those. You could probably do something fancy like wrap some wires around the tubes in a spiral if you wanted to, just to make it kind of different or to change the look. These ones have a lot of versatile things you could do. Just as far as what you hang from them, I mean, you can hang anything from them. I made some little step bezels for some faceted citrines for these ones, but I also made some little silver ball ones. I'm going to make sure that it actually attaches to the wire. I had that one jump on the tube for some reason. I might not have had it heated evenly enough. So I had to go back and add a little more. There we go. That's not going to come out of there. Okay, so I guess I could work hard on these right now if you want me to. They're really flimsy right now, so I need to stiffen them up a little bit. I'm going to bend the end over like this. I'm going to gently twist the whole thing a few times. What that does is that causes this metal to torque all the way along its whole length. And because it's doing that, it's causing the molecules inside of it, or the atoms I should say, to change their alignment and become more organized, which makes them stiffer. So you went from being kind of flimsy to something that's relatively stiff like that now, versus this, which bends really easily. So let's do that on both of them. You can twist them right off if you're not careful, but I'll cut these off to the exact length I want later, but I'm going to snip off these little ends that I bent. Okay. I pre-made, like I said, a couple of dangly things for these. They clearly haven't pickled long enough yet. Still a little pink or orange there. Alright, but what you can see it's going to be a bezel set citrine. Just hangs in there like that. And what we'll be able to do is just slide it onto this thing like this. And so when you wear it, you'll have an extra little sparkly hanging from it once it's all set. So, but the thing I think that's cool about these is you could make a whole bunch of different ones, you know, and you could sell them as sets where people had choices, you know. This one I just put a little silver ball on the bottom just to do something different. You could put a little leaf on there, or a feather, or, you know, some kind of cutout shape if you wanted some specific kind of thing that these were, you know, for. If you want St. Patrick's Day earrings, put a little 4-leaf clover on there. If you want Christmas earrings, put a little Christmas tree hanging from it. But either way, they're pretty versatile, I think. So I'll let those clean up as well, and then I'll probably do all the stone setting and stuff off camera since we're doing 3 projects. If you're interested in making bezels for faceted stones like this one with an open back, I'll put a link up here for a video about that. So let's get those pickling some more, and then I'll start on the third ones. Okay, third ones. We need some square wire. And I thought I cut myself some square wire. I think I did. Because the middle part we're going to do twisted. So, and this is more than twice as long as I need. So I'm going to use this piece to twist, and we're going to go over and I'll show you how to twist a little short piece like this. If I was doing a longer piece, I'd probably just chuck it right into my electric drill and just, you know, push the button and let it hook this to something else and just spin it until it twists itself. But for a little piece like this, oftentimes I'll just twist it by hand. Okay, hopefully you can see what I've done here. I've clamped this down with the C-clamp on my bench pin, and I have some draw tongs here. These are just draw tongs I use for pulling wire through draw plates and stuff. But if I grab this, I can twist this by hand while it's attached to something. You can twist it as far as you want to twist it. I like using twisted wire in earrings because it kind of catches the light when people move, and so it gives them a little extra kind of catch your attention characteristic. Okay, so I cut off 2 pieces about the correct length, which was I think 60, 64, 65 millimeters. And you'll notice I cut these side pieces a little bit shorter. I'm not 100% sure how this is going to work out, but what I'm going to do is well, first of all, let's make sure that these are both pretty close to the same length. Close enough. Okay. And I need to bend these slightly, so there's just kind of a little curve to them. So I want them to have a slight arc. It's going to go up against the side of this like that. Same way on this one. Pretty close. So I'm going to solder these at an angle like this to this, and this one is also going to arch this way, and it should achieve, I'm hoping it'll achieve what I was shooting for, which is to have an inner loop that is bigger and the outer loops that are a little bit smaller. So we'll see. But it does need to meet right at the ends there like that. So I actually guessed pretty well. Okay, so what we'll do like that, set it up like this with these guys tilted up a little bit on the magnesia block. So I'll be right back. Oops. I dropped the ball again. You're always dropping the ball, Chad. Well, it's sort of working in theory. So I think I'm going to have to do some manual shaping to get these just how I want them, but I think in general they'll be okay. I'll have to do some fine tuning on the shaping of it, and then we'll have to do some right where this, like I said, I think I'll be able to get these nice and round looking and spread out nicely, but I'm going to have to, you can see it here, but this piece comes down too much. So on one side I'll grind it flat with the Dremel. On the other side I'm going to grind it so it's kind of a trench underneath. This will probably be the side that's to the front with the wire attached to it. This one looks like I can carve out a little cavity underneath there, because I want a cavity between this wire and this wire for the ear wire to pop into. So I'm going to see if I can do that. I'm going to do the second earring off camera for time-wise. So get this one soldered, and then I'm going to clean everything up after it pickles for a while, and I will show you the final results. So there's likely a bunch of solder there from when I soldered that together anyway, but I'm going to put some on the end of the wire. That's the side that I filed. Okay. A little bit of solder on here. Maybe a little more than that. A little ball of solder picked up there. I want to heat this. Cool it off and make sure it's on there solidly. Feels like it. Okay, so like I said, after I pickle it for a while and make the other one, I'm going to do the same thing I did with that ear wire on the other one. Twist it until it's work hardened. I'm going to curve it, and then I'll cut it so that it's just barely long enough to fit under there, so it'll catch there. And then I'll get everything shined up. So stay tuned for the final products. Okay, well that was part one of the various types of hoop earrings videos. I hope you enjoyed that and got something from it. If you did, make sure to hit the like button down below. That really helps me out a lot. And you know, watch a few other videos. I have lots of content here now, over 200 videos. Lots of projects for beginners, intermediate level people, and even advanced sorts of projects. So take a look at some of those and consider subscribing to my channel. I'd love to have you. So again, don't forget to look at the video description links. There's all sorts in there that are relevant to my channel. And thanks for visiting. I appreciate it. So take care. Happy silversmithing.